Hi, welcome back to the Capstone project. This is episode 2, and this one is basically just going to be like a quick overview of all the parts of a computer. So, if you're looking at a computer, obviously it looks very complex. There's a lot of green. If you look inside it, there's a lot of like small metal parts and a lot of small parts, and it just looks scary. So, we're just going to break it down really quick, part by part. This right here is what's called a CPU fan, and it's a little important, but it's not quite as important as what's underneath it, which is the CPU. And the CPU is arguably the most important part of your computer. The CPU is basically the brains of the computer. It's um, it's stands the CPU stands for Central Processing Unit, and um, the yeah basically it gives information to the rest of the parts, the rest of the computer, on how to perform tasks on the computer, how to perform their tasks and operations. It basically gives the entire computer the information necessary to run. So, yeah, it's arguably the most important part, and we'll get into it in more detail in the next episode. So, this right here, this is a big part, um, and it's also arguably the most important as well, right alongside the CPU. This is the GPU, or graphics card. Um, so, in simple terms, this has the power to deal with video processing. So basically, you connect this into like a monitor or something, or phones have really tiny versions of this in basic terms, and that connects to their screen, and that's what allows the video to show up on the screen. So yeah, arguably the most important part right alongside the CPU. GPU stands for Graphics Processing Unit, hence the fact that it deals with graphics. Yeah. Right, now we have a little bit of less important parts, but still equally as important in running the computer. So this right here, this is easily the most terrifying looking part, but really if you're looking at computers as wholes, like computers as a whole, it's not really that scary. We'll go over this more in detail in another episode as well. But this is the motherboard, and basically everything connects into this. And this is pretty much the CPU is connected into the motherboard, and everything else is connected into it, pretty much connecting the CPU to everything else. So it's kind of just like a hub for the CPU, and also like a hub for most things that the computer is going to be running through. So it basically just connects all the parts together and allows them to work together. So this right here is a RAM stick. RAM stands for Random Access Memory, and basically, like the more RAM you have, the more data and the more processes and pretty much just the more of anything your computer can handle at once. So the more RAM you have, the more apps you can have open at once without being slowed down. The more, like the more intensive apps you can run at once. They come in these little sticks and they kind of just snap into the motherboard. It's kind of satisfying, actually. Yeah, so that's RAM. Alright, these doohickeys here, this really big looking one is a more, you might say, archaic version of this certain thing, and these are more modern. But either way, they're both still used a lot. This right here is an HDD, and this is a version of an SSD. So this is all storage. Um, an HDD, you might call it a hard drive, stands for hard disk drive, is an older version of storage, but in some ways, even today, it could be more useful. Hard drives are usually less expensive than SSDs. They usually hold more, or they usually have more storage. So in some ways they're better. However, SSDs being more modern, they stand for solid state drive. Um, they're more modern, so they run faster. But again, they are more expensive and or they tend to have less storage than in a hard drive. Okay, and this last part right here, this is going to be your power supply. Pretty self-explanatory what it does. It basically just supplies power to your computer. There's not much to it. All right, so that's a overview of the computer, all the parts. Again, we're going to be going into more detail on each part in later episodes. But anyways, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, keep watching the videos. It'll be more helpful in the future, and keep supporting the project like that. Yeah, I'll see you in another episode. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.